Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we have the first ever Runecup Brazil coming at you. I am so excited to be bringing this tournament in particular to everybody. Turned out that this ended up being the biggest Brazilian tournament to date. Very, very big. I think it was I think we had 115 people enter, if I remember correctly. So similar format to Duels of Runeterra with day one and then of Swiss, and then day two cutting to a top 16. So myself and Boulevard did day two, so we're going to get started here with round 7, Sudrakon versus Outono Dorado, and we actually have a lot of Sudrakon games here because, yeah, well, he was streaming, and Sudrakon, he's a pretty good player, so we decided to follow him throughout this first iteration of Runecup, and he did not disappoint. Let's get into this game.
So this is a list that I've seen in action a couple of times. I don't know. It's not something I'm the biggest fan of. The sapling toss still feels a little awkward to me. There's a couple of card advantage issues that you can run into, and it looks like we're going to get started off here with the discard aggro into the Twisted Fate Fizz. We got to come up with a name for this deck, and I do want to point out no battle rages coming out of Oto on this one.
Yeah, which honestly, that's kind of like my favorite part of the deck is getting battle rage off on Fizz. It's just amazing. Which, now that Trundle has been revealed, Battle Rage, I think, is going to be a very interesting card now, just being 8 cost with a lot of those, what's that keyword again? Behold. Yeah, Behold. So
I've been trying to figure out how to break the Enlightened, make a unit cost 0.
Oh, yeah, right. Oh, yeah, anytime you see that word 0, man, or that number 0 on any card, yeah, your mind starts to open up to like some OTK combo potential, so we'll see if that's the case with those new Trundle reveals there. But we do see, starting off with a very damn good hand here on the side of Outono as far as a curve is concerned, not to mention the Starlit Seer will have some protection here in this Elixir of Iron.
Let me check the removal suite coming out of this discard aggro. All right, yeah, that makes sense. You know, it's the three Mystic Shot, the 3 Get Excited. So there is an answer for the Starlight Seer on the side of Sudrakon, and I think that, you know, it is a little unfortunate because he opened with the Academic, he doesn't have the mana floated into the following turn, and now with Odo having the mana available, we'll have a lot of protection for the Starlight Seer between the Elixir of Iron and the Fury of the North.
Yeah, this is great for Outono. Not to mention going into the next turn, I mean, he's gonna have this Zap Spray Fin here, which is just going to feel really good. Going to be able to possibly poke some more damage through. Or, at the very least, you know, Sudrakon's trying to be aggressive. Maybe he, you know, gets some of the removal. He baits some of the removal out onto the Zap instead of it going to his face. And I got to say, this is a hell of a first lineup. Like, this is spicy. We have discard aggro versus Fizz OTK. Like, this is awesome to see this first game.
Especially in the XO bracket.
Yeah.
Like, this isn't like we picked the most interesting decks and we're going to go check that out regardless. No, this is the top table, baby. This is where the action happens. This is where dreams come through.
Yeah, this is literally number 1 and number 2 of the tournament, and I think that just speaks to how diverse this current environment is right now. It's absolutely great.
So, like, this is... I struggle to call the deck cheesy in the current iterations because, like, sure, you know, you try to pump a bunch of spells onto the Fizz the way the deck used to work, but now we've played, you know, Warning Shot into Shared Spoils, which is a pretty decent play tempo-wise. Like, I can't argue that that's a bad play, and all of a sudden, I've got a 5/5 Twisted Fate. How are you going to handle that?
Yeah, 5/5 Twisted Fate, man, and that's kind of why... So we were talking before about some of the elusives that were added, like Zap Spray Fin and Slippery Wave Rider. Like, the meme version is just straight up Fizz, Starlit Seer, tons of spells, right? That's like the meme deck. And these elusives got added to kind of make it a little less memey. And then on top of that, now we have things like Twisted Fate, which works incredibly well with things that buff... Like Twisted Fate is inherently weak because he's easy to remove, which means he's not going to be able to stick around and get his level up effect. Being 5/5, like you just mentioned... Yeah, he's staying on the board for at least a little bit, or he's going to get some serious resources out on the side of Sudrakon to deal with them.
And something that we see out of Sudrakon's Draven as well as we're going to see out of Odo's Twisted Fate is how much inherent protection Quick Attack actually adds to a unit in Legends of Runeterra.
Yeah. It's an offensive, like the best defense is a good offense, I guess, in that concern. It's kind of the opposite of how that's usually said, and yeah, I got to agree. it allows Draven to kind of protect himself while he's on the attack here. But a 5/5 is going to make this not matter, especially with a gold card. This is a huge gold card to shut this turn down.
And with that Elixir of Iron in hand, Odo can even block the Draven with the Twisted Fate. Doesn't have to worry about Mystic Shot thanks to that Elixir of Iron. And I think the reason that I want to call this version less cheesy, kind of going back to that point, is like, let's say I get down a Starlit Seer on 2, and you manage to kill it on turn 4 after I've played a couple of spells. I mean, if I just top deck a 7/7 Slippery Wave Rider, that's enough to end a game.
Yeah, that seems like it's pretty good.
The removal in Legends of Runeterra, I have criticized in the past for being a little ineffective against a lot of units, and we're seeing a lot of decks start to take advantage of specifically that. It's like, if Vengeance is the only card in the game that can kill my 7/7 elusive, then that's a very powerful elusive unit that I have. Like, that is something that 9 out of 10 decks actually just cannot deal with.
Yeah, and I'm actually surprised to see this Draven attack here. He's, Sudrakon's really thinking about whether or not he wants to attack, and yeah, gonna go ahead and completely shut down that attack turn on the side of Outono. That's a big turn for him, and now also being able to get an elusive unit on board to start chipping away at some damage. This is nuts.
Ooh, but Sudrakon has the Jinx online. Who can race the other one faster? It is a pretty small elusive on the side of Odo, and you don't necessarily want to start proactively firing off Elixir of Irons to give the Fizz elusive, but it looks like he's going to be fine with that. Decides he needs to race as quickly as possible, can't hang on to these defensive spells.
Wow, yeah, and this is going to be interesting as far as if Sudrakon... I mean, if Sudrakon can still get rid of his hand somehow and start triggering this Jinx, I think he'll be in good shape. The problem is, how do you deal with, like, does Sudrakon's deck even deal with large units like that? Like, large elusive units?
Not really. You're typically looking to, if your opponent has large units, you want to stall out with things like Jury Rig and the Flame Chompers while you use Super Mega Death Rockets to finish off your opponent going over the top, just sort of ignoring their units. There's not a lot of elusives in the format, and the meta decks very much reflect that. They don't have a lot of tools to actually deal with cards like these because the traditional elusive decks just aren't that strong right now. They're very weak to removal. They have almost no agency in an Ezreal matchup. But something like this, and I mean, we praised, I believe it was 4LW, was actually the first player that we saw bust out Zap Sprayfin and Slippery Wave Rider in a NAB deck, and now we're seeing that package pick up popularity across the board.
Yeah, I think Brazil in general, Slippery Wave Rider has been a pretty popular card, which I think they basically are just seeing, okay, this is a large elusive unit that has better stats than most elusive units, considering the nerf to Shadow Assassin and other cards. And I got to agree. I mean, listen, in this case, a 5/5, but even a 4/4 elusive is just a hell of a unit to deal with. And protecting that Zap Sprayfin, too, just going to continue to keep this elusive train rolling here. Also, having the 2 Fury of the North might be able to just finish off the game next turn, depending on how Sudrakon plays out his turn this turn.
Plays out his turn this turn. That one went in one ear and out the other on my end.
After I said that, I was like, wait, hold on. I take that back.
So these attacks from Sudrakon are sort of telegraphing a vision coming out, something that can buff this Jinx into the range to actually finish off the Twisted Fate.
I don't know.
Oh, looks like he holds it all back and is actually just going to go in with the crowd favorite, and Odo going to decide that the Starlit Seer potentially has gotten all its value, or just the 5/5 Twisted Fate is actually not going to be enough. It's going to continue to get chump blocked from here on out. It's not really adding that much. I need to preserve my life total. Let me just get this crowd favorite off the board.
And crucially, too, Outono has this warning shot to kind of proactively activate Fizz's, elusive. And I think that's one of the issues with Fizz is finding a spell to actually to like activate his elusive but not emptying your spell mana, right? It's one of the problems with Fizz, and one of the reasons why I like a lot of the new cards that have come out that are specifically burst speed spells that cannot be played in response to a spell or in combat. They literally are made like almost like perfectly for Fizz, right? And something like Warning Shot, same exact thing. You spend 0 mana, you activate Plunder, you activate Fizz's elusive, and now you have plenty of mana left over. And Outono feeling good. I mean, he's doing a little dance. I think he's feeling pretty good right now about where this game is at.
Yeah, he's got a pretty much guaranteed lethal next turn with the double Fury of the North. I don't think that there's anything Sudrakon can do to stop this 13-9 or this 13-12, I think, elusive Fizz coming at him, especially with the Warning Shot backup in case somehow you did get some kind of Piltover's on Noxus spell that could actually kill that unit. Oh wait, that doesn't exist, and that's why the Fizz and the Slippery Wave Rider feels so powerful in this meta.
Okay, wait. So I'm looking at Sudrakon's deck though. They're actually like Outono could just go like Fury, yeah, and just attack. There's actually no card in Sudrakon's deck whatsoever with 7 mana that matters here. Like he literally cannot do anything.
This is what I've criticized Runeterra about in the past. The only card in the game that deals with this is Vengeance.
Well, Will of Ionia. I mean, there's other cards that deal with it, but like there's few and far between. There's really not a whole lot. So I tend to agree with you with that. There's not a whole lot that deal with very large elusive units. But then again, you got to remember you're building your entire deck around this strategy, and it seems like a meme deck in order to do it.
It should be a cheesy strategy, but because of how Runeterra's removal suite lines up, it's not. And I think that's why it feels so bad.
Oh, yeah, okay. That's probably a good point. Yeah. Yeah, and it's like we were talking the other day about kind of all their three cost, 3 damage removal. And it feels like a lot is centered around that as like the basis for the cost to effect ratio. Vengeance being 7 mana, things like that. Will of Ionia now being 5. So, yeah, it feels really bad to have a 14-12 elusive unit that, with tons of mana, you actually just can't do anything about. But I think what that shows, too, is both players have a strategy, and they're just going all in on that strategy. So
so that's Yu-Gi-Oh, where you both just solitaire at each other until someone dies.
Yeah. Who gets their strategy first wins, and in this case, it was Outono. But I do love, again, to see these crazy decks being played. Discard aggro. Not necessarily crazy, but not a deck that we see often right now. Aggro in general kind of falling off.
So how many times do you see a meme deck before it becomes a meta deck and you're tired of casting it?
Oh, I see what you're saying there. It's like how long did it take for Bannerman to become shitty?
Yeah.
Let's see. I would say, oh, that's tough. All right, I'd say when there's more than like half of a top cut. So no, let's say more than a third of a top cut are playing the deck like 2 weeks back to back, then it's an issue, right? So if you're in like top 16, which we usually cut the top 16 now in most tournaments, and there's like 6 people that are playing this deck, and it's 2 weeks in a row that this deck is being played by a lot of people like that, then yeah, I'd say all right, what the hell? Like let's get some new decks in here.
Because this is, I believe, the 4th time that we've seen this Twisted Fate Fizz deck over the course of the weekend.
Yeah, but it's been like one player that plays it, right? Like it's
been like 5 different players.
Do we see it in the top cut?
We saw it in the Swiss of the PCS as well as the top cut of the PCS.
Oh, that's right. We did see it in the top cut of the PCS as well. Oh, geez. Okay. Oh, wow. Okay, so yeah, this is actually twice. I don't think it's that prevalent yet, though.
No. But I'm saying it's picking up steam. This isn't like a couple of different people. Like, this deck has been played over the course of this weekend by multiple players across multiple regions and multiple tournaments, and all of their lists look pretty similar.
Yeah, oh no, they're almost identical now with this Twisted Fate. It's like once somebody decided, hey, Twisted Fate all buffed up and stuff seems like a pretty good idea. They all kind of got on the same bandwagon and decided to play the deck. I still am not, 100% on board with Golden Narwhal, which everybody seems to agree with as well. Seems to agree with each other, not with me. They actually like the card.
I mean, it's just another elusive. If you think about it as, okay, it doesn't really matter if it has vulnerable, if it's like a 7/8 elusive.
Well, that is a good point, yeah, especially if it's only costing 2 mana. Is there any other elusives in Freljord? Well, not in Freljord, but in Bilgewater that's 3 or 2 cost?
I believe those might be the 3 elusives that we see in the deck might be the only elusives in Bilgewater.
So that might honestly be the reason why that's happening, is that's just the only option. So they're like, all right, well, looks like we got to play this one.
Sorry, there's Prowling Cutthroat.
Oh, but
I think Prowling Cutthroat is too mediocre without any sort of buff that you kind of have to.
Well, I think that's where we see the 3 stat line for health come in, where obviously we've said this a million times, there's a huge difference between 2 and 3, and obviously 3 and 4 and 4 and 5. Yeah. Every single point of health in that first 5 health seems to be large, with the 2 to 3 being the most important. And that's probably why that decision is made right there, because on the off chance you draw it before it gets buffed, you're going to want the 3 health as opposed to the measly 1 health of Prowling Cutthroat.
So there's actually like 7 elusives in Bilgewater, if you don't count Fizz, but it's like Prowling Cutthroat, Bubble Bear, Smooth Soloist, Abyssal Eye.
All right, hold up. Do we argue Bubble Bear here? Because isn't that 3 cost and then a tune?
Yeah, but it's a 0/6.
But it's stickier, and...
But it doesn't do anything without any buffs.
That is a good point, but you have Fury of the North in the deck.
Yeah, but I feel like Golden... Maybe if you ran Battle Rage, I could see an argument for Bubble Bear, but I think like if Bubble Bear's in your opening hand and you can't ever get any buffs onto it, it feels terrible.
I think
so.
There was some other card they spoiled that somebody's like, oh, Bubble Bear is going to be meta now. I forget what the card was, but God, if that ever happens.
It's not going to happen. But so how do you feel about discard aggro? Because I don't like it. We saw it get into the finals of the Mindmaster Japanese Invitational last weekend, where it did get 2-0'd. And that player was not able to pick up the win. I asked Sudrakon about this deck choice last night, and he said that this has a very good matchup into Frostbite midrange. But outside of that, and I haven't seen that matchup specifically, except for it losing that matchup in the Mindmaster tournament. So, confirmation bias for me says that's not necessarily true. And obviously there's no Frostbite midrange in Odo's lineup, so we don't get to see Sudrakon play to that. But I don't know, I just feel like the reason that we've seen aggro fall off is because it's not very good right now.
Yeah, no, that's exactly it. Because, how do I feel about this deck? I actually love it. I think this is one of the more fun decks to play in Runeterra, where you're just, discard and drawing, all sorts of crazy stuff happen, and you get, Casino. Casino's another perfect example of, a fun deck. The problem is, and Casino's probably better than discard aggro, in my opinion, right now. The problem with discard aggro is, it's just not, it doesn't have enough beef. Whereas these Demacia decks like we see here, or really any other mid-range type deck that kind of borders on aggro mid-range, the scouts, stuff like that, that's just gonna overtake discard aggro. It's just way better. It's just gonna trade better. It's gonna be more aggressive, and it's gonna do more damage. So it's unfortunate, but I do love Jinx and Draven.
Yeah, I feel like Jinx Draven has moved away from what it used to be. It used to just kind of be like, you focus in on this one singular threat. Nowadays, they're kind of all about go wide, play a vision, or get down a crowd favorite. And we had seen versions of the discard aggro that did that in the past, but it wasn't necessarily the standard. But now it's just go wide, play my big threat, or play my vision, and then refuel with either Jinx or Augmented Experimenter. But I think we're only seeing 1 Experimenter out of Sudrakon, 2 Experimenters out of Sudrakon.
Yeah, and personally, sorry, because I'm just all about Call of the Mountain right now, because I keep seeing these cards. I think that Targon P&Z is going to be a thing with some sort of Teemo Professor Von Yip build with Zonites and stuff like that, and I think that will actually be a better deck in the next format than discard aggro. I think that version of Token with Lulu, maybe even Jinx and Teemo, who knows. I think that's
Lulu's Ionia.
Lulu's Ionia. I meant Ionia PNZ. Sorry, my bad.
Okay.
So Lulu with either just Lulu and Teemo or Lulu and Jinx. Even just looking at that potential archetype, it looks better than discard aggro. It's just Vision to me. If Vision is your strategy, that's just not enough. Bannerman is a strategy. That's way better than Vision. Vision +1 to every, that's just not good compared to a lot of other, mass buff effects like that. So they need something else, and we haven't seen it in the new set previews yet, and we'll see if they get something.
I am a little worried about Lulu just unintentionally being the best aggro deck of the format.
Oh, yeah, no, 100%. Well, that's the other thing, because you had, that card Mountain Sojourners. Yeah, then there's also the potential for, a Ionia Targon deck to just curve out 1, 2, 3, 4, Lulu into Taric into Sojourners, and now you just have this giant field of 4/4s that Targon makes 2 of them indestructible. So it's Taric, not Targon. So it's, I don't know. The gears are turning in my head right now. I'm pretty excited for the new set.
I'm not a deck builder, so I mean, a couple of people have asked me to start doing reviews of the cards and stuff, and I think I'm just gonna try and slot them into the existing decks that we see and kind of talk about it from that lens. Rather, because I'm not gonna sit here and try and craft the next meta. That has never really been what I do. That's why I talk about these games, not play them.
Yeah, I think it was one of Swim's videos. He had actually mentioned Lulu. The first thing that came to his mind was Lulu Fleet Feather Tracker, which of course. I mean, that's turn 3 a 4/4 challenger. That's absolutely busted. But I don't know if Ionia Demacia is going to be that good with Lulu added in place of Bannerman and other cards like that. So. Yeah. We'll see.
Did you turn off your 15-minute delay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, don't do that.
I just wanted to make sure.
Don't do
I just
that
wanted
to
to make
me,
sure.
okay? Do not do that to me, Boulevard.
Well, it'd be better than running this whole thing with the delay on.
No, that would be... Well, it wouldn't be the end of the world, but it would definitely be worse. Because I like interacting with chat, right?
Yeah.
I like chat. Chat's cool. Sometimes.
They're not bullying me.
Yeah, where they're not bullying us in our opinions on the game. So, but back to the game anyways. We do see Discard Aggro doing some Discard Aggro stuff, going face right now, playing this Mystic Shot. Question is that a Jinx in hand? Because if not, I don't know if he's going to be able to do this last 6 damage before Outono kills him.
The one thing that we did see out of the old and old discard aggro definitely felt more like what Burn turned into, where you played like Boom Crew rookies and Decimates and things like that. Very importantly, no Decimates coming out of Sudrakon, no Captain Pharaon, which is something that we've actually seen in a couple of discard aggro lists where players just kind of have that as their total top end. And, you know, if I draw it early, I have plenty of things that I can discard it to between, you know, Rummage, Get Excited, really just Rummage, Get Excited, you know, Experimenter, Draven, things of that nature. Oh, the Zonites as well, yeah. Now, there's actually a lot more discard in this deck than there used to be, which is why I think we used to call it Jinx Draven and now we call it discard aggro, if that makes sense.
Yeah, well, because Zonite was bad before.
Yeah, we have Zonite, we have Sump Dredger, we have Draven, we have Jinx, we have Experiment. There's so much discard that I think I do like the Captain Pharaon, but I definitely understand not running it.
Oh, another thing with Lulu, by the way, Flame Chompers. Now is a 4/4. Just saying. Something else to consider.
I can't wait to just play like my War Mother's control deck and put you in the dirt.
Good old War. Well, now your War Mother's control might have Trundle in it.
Yeah.
So playing a pillar on turn 8 and making something free. Like, let's go.
I do think that regen is an insanely busted keyword, and we don't get to see it that often because there is only one unit, or there's only one follower in the game with regen.
Kindly Tavern Keeper, right?
No, it's a 4/5 with Overwhelm and Freljord.
Oh, you mean regeneration?
Oh, sorry.
Like the keyword regeneration. Okay.
Yeah. Sorry, there are actually 2 now. I forgot that they did add it back to She Who Wanders.
Yeah. There's regenerate. Well, I thought there was a champion, wasn't there?
There's a Braum has it as well as leveled Garen. Or no, sorry, Garen has it. Leveled Vladimir has it. Which is
such a. I still think that's the worst thing to gain for a level up is regeneration. That is so bad. Oh my God.
But yeah, no, like, I mean, you look at how difficult a Garen is to deal with because of the regen. And then you look at some of these new cards, like there's a 6-mana 5/5 that has regen Overwhelm and gives another unit regen and Overwhelm. And I'm just like, that looks really good. I think regen is better than tough in most scenarios.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Because it forces you can't chip away at something's health. You have to, like, thermo beam it. You have to kill it all in one shot. And yeah, that's one of the reasons why Garen is so good in Bannerman decks. So yeah, I got to agree with you there. Very excited to see those Trundle cards today. But we do see, back to the game here, a pretty big attack coming out by Outono, and I think that this is probably going to be game. Actually, doesn't attack with the Blighted Caretaker here because he will get the free Grizzled Ranger, which feels pretty good with the Callista, and I think that's just game.
I don't think Sudrakon could have anything in hand to stop this. Any 2 attackers are lethal. So even if you get to block the 4/3 and then Mystic Shot onto the Grizzled Ranger, that last card has to save you from a Callista and a Badger Bear, and there's nothing in the deck that's going to do that one. Sudrakon falling down in this one. Odo with a bit of a pop-off. Should be moving into the top 16. Absolutely deserves that one. And yeah, this discard aggro deck, I feel like every time I've casted it in recent memory, I've just watched it get 2-0'd. Granted, you know, Sudrakon did identify the matchup that it's strong in. We didn't see that matchup here, so we'll have to check back on that one a little bit later. But if you're bringing it specifically to pick on the Frostbite mid-range, do you just lose every match where your opponent's not playing Frostbite mid-range? So far on cast, the answer is yes, 100% of the time. We've only seen the one match, but that's how percentages work.
All right, that's it. Outono gonna go ahead and take down Sudrakon. So good to see some new faces making top cut here. Let's see how far he can make it in the top 16 for day 2. So as always, everybody, stay healthy, stay positive. I hope shit just works for you, and peace out.